Symbolic History Through Sight and Sound, 14, 15th century, early Renaissance. Soon after 1400, Cicogna, Flemish-born Italian, closed his career with the ceremony motets, which initiate in music the spatial clarities of early Renaissance. At the same time, art formed an horizon of humanizing sacred brightness, the international style, from this 1398 Dei Grassi in Italy through Burgundy and France, this Dijon Breudelam, across the Channel to the winsome alabaster reliefs of England. Back to Cologne, where the softest jewelling of all runs from this 1410 Madonna to the ultimate child wonder of Lochner, as late as 1440. So we might return by the Rhine and Danube, to the gold leaf devotions of Fra Angelico in Florence, city of classical recovery in Gothic grace. Here Ghiberti's early work on the baptistry doors had opened the century. By its close, art gathers its force in Michelangelo's first Pietà, music in the death lament which Isaac, Fleming at the court of Florence, wrote for Lorenzo il Magnifico, died 1492. At such advance of consciousness in the science of incarnate sway, we heirs to its later pride feel a shudder of tragic awe. As if the whole rational realist thrust of civilization were an age-old mistake, some Luciferian fall from mythic immediacy. So it was at the Greeks that Charles Olson, in his Black Mountain Lectures on History, pointed the finger of Nietzschean blame. Man lost something just about 500 BC, and only got it back just about 1905 AD. As in Mark's Magic Forest, Berg's Lyric Suite, Rilke's Exposed on the Peaks of the Heart, of uncleft consciousness indeed there moves many about, many a qualmless hill beast moves and delays, and the great inviolable bird circles the summit's virgin refusal, but here, unsheltered, here, on the peaks of the heart. Surely, if we pursue the revolution by which a Michelangelo Hell Fury becomes the summons of a national Arc de Triomphe, arrogating its brazen book of law and iron book of war over space, time, and cause, who would not ask where history went wrong? And the modern appeal to the pre-Greek, cycladic, and abstract is of a piece with Olson's oblique claim that at the beginning of the Periclean century something happened by which man was broken from the functionalities of nature and tribe, that it was philosophic scrutiny of self and world which stamped the brow furrowing of consciousness on centuries to follow. Though if that palpable resolve to compose symbolic reality to the deliberate measure of man was a mistake, it was not made once only, but before and after 2400 BC, when Egypt became the cradle of civilization by great discoveries that way. Subsequently, by the Greeks, this Sapphic Kore of 500 BC, and again marking another 2,000 years as Christendom emerged from the trance of medieval seizure. And strange, if mistake, that it should produce in each case an expression of such vernal delight, the archaic smile renewed in this Baldovinetti Virgin, as pure as fetching, seated on some Florentine height over the discovered Val d'Arno. So the beauty of earth, an Orphic voice through Dante's dead land, là dov'esser Dei giocondo, there where one ought to be happy, blooms in 15th century Poliziano, to behold the valleys and hills and air pure, grass and flowers, rivers cold and clear, to hear the birds sing and the waters sound, and low wind murmuring among the fronds, see apples heap the earth and bend the trees, and the ripe wheat run in billows like the sea, e lebbiare ondeggiar come fa il mare. As if a drunk who must end in murderous sick despair our ravaged civilization of the bateau ivre could still look back to a morning age when the first Promethean draughts had awakened to life and love in what remains perhaps the most lovable of our centuries, the 15th. Trace the waking from the century before. In a Daddi Madonna, the burning mystery of Dante's praise, Vergine Madre, figlia del tuo figlio, maiden and mother and daughter of your son, humble and exalted beyond every creature, determined goal of eternal counsel, termine fisso d'eterno consiglio. Has lightened like the music of Landini through Boccaccio, O Regina degli Angeli, O Maria, Mary, Queen of the angels of heaven, adornment of the sky, whose smiling features, star of the sea, guide into their haven wanderers from the way, your witless creatures. Toward the 15th century ease of Belcari's sacred plays, lily of May, flower of blessedness, with chastity and all the virtues else adorned of every kind and loveliness, we honor you above all saints and angels. What Botticelli would culminate in this Magnificat Madonna. Europe refining from the Gothic past some Beulah wedding of earth and heaven, you shall no more be called desolate, for your land shall be married. Bruges, 1425. Jan van Eyck's church remains mystical. That sun shines from the north as on Dante's paradise, but it irradiates, like daily realities, the Gothic lines, the angels in the choir, the pageant queen. Such the light in an English Advent poem. I sing of a maiden that is markeless, king of all kinges, to her son she chase. He come all so still, there his mother was, as dew in April that falleth on the grass. He come all so still, to his mother is boor, as dew in April that falleth on the floor. He come all so still, there his mother lay, as dew in April that falleth on the spray. Mother and maiden was never known but she, well may switch a lady, goddess mother be. Music, if nothing else, would make us treat 15th century Europe as a whole. To hear what those angels might be singing in the Van Eyck choir, we turn to Dufay. At the same time bringing the musicians nearer, as in the Ghent altar of the Lamb. Yet Dufay's Gloria in the manner of trumpets, with canon above and ostinato below. Is from about 1430, when Italian and Flemish Dufay was with the papal choir. So Luca della Robbia's Florentine choir boys would serve as well. Or Godzill's Angels, past mid-century, from the Medici Chapel. Or Piero della Francesca's, from the London Nativity. As worship turns to dance, it will be Luca della Robbia again. Or from Donatello's facing gallery, the more bacchanalian abandon of dancing genii. This is new wine in the old faith bottles. Browning's Brother Lippo stealing in from a night frolic to paint on Jerome, knocking at his poor old breast with his great round stone to subdue the flesh. It is Vasari who tells how Lippi chose the novitiate Lucrezia as model for a Prato Madonna, finished nun as it were with the picture, took her off to be his mistress, thereafter portrayed as Mary, and their lively urchins as Christ and the angels, religion as sprightly as Charles of Orleans' Confession. My ghostly father, I me confess, first to God and then to you, that at a window, wot ye how, I stole a kiss of great sweetness. But I restore it shall, doubtless, and that to God I make a vow. While French Fouquet turned Charles VII's Agnes Sorel to a Mary of pneumatic bliss, a levity naive as its embrace in faith. Chiamo il dolce Gesù e canto, canto. But to Mary mild and Jesu child I sing, I sing. Some years before the meeting with Lucrezia, Lippi had painted the Uffizi Coronation of the Virgin, in which, by the startlingly personal St. Lucy below, with her children, the later affair seems prefigured. For Browning, this is the prior's niece who comes to care about his asthma. Oh, that white, smallish female with the breasts, she's just my niece, whom Lippi has chosen for this picture. I shall paint God, Madonna, ringed in a bowery, flowery angel brood, in the front a saint or two. The artist himself then, as Browning thought, in his monk's robe, come up as from a dark stair, mazed, until that sweet angelic slip of a thing intercedes. This man did the work, as on the scroll, Iste perfecit opus. Such the Ave Regina, du fai troped for himself, miserere supplicanti du fai. Or the lighter greeting of his month of May rondo, Carissime, du fai vous en prie. Carissime, du fai vous en prie. It is likely that in the fresco fragment in the Carmine cloister left, the young Lippi has represented his delight in whatever is perceived. Browning from Vasari. First, every sort of monk, the black and white, I drew them, fat and lean. While as late as the Prato frescoes, two girls whispering of Herodias' demand for John the Baptist's head make such discovery unforgettable. Was not Lippi's art sire, the saintly Fra Angelico, entering Renaissance by the same observational road, his mid-century St. Lawrence distributing alms, dominated by the blind beggar, right, where spirituality springs exactly from heightened sense? So Browning's Lippi, studying The Watchman, calls for a bit of chalk. We have seen the secular hauntingly suspended in the synthesis of creed, sharp as this winter from Notre Dame. In a Goliard poem, De rames cadunt folia, the bleak time burns with love, so too with Perrine d'Angecourt, 13th century troubadour. In Lorenzetti's 14th century Winter, the mystery is distilled through a realism strange as the smoky rain in Chaucer, which keeps crusade at Pandarus' house for the consummation required. So Dante, in the Vita Nuova, speaks with the ladies who pity him. And as sometimes we see water fall mingled with white snow, so it seemed their talk issued forth mingled with sighs. Guillaume de Machaut's double leading tones. Lorenzetti's panorama of a well-governed countryside have offered such exploratory translations of reality. Each detail of that vast spread in August in a hay season, when corn is corven with crocus cane, holds the dream of spacelessness. With the 1400s, estrangement ebbs. The calendar of the Très Riche Earls, Burgundian rondos, this Arnauld de Lantin, breathe natural air. Even the plays of 1400 Flanders accomplish the human passage. Sandarine tells her new knight of her seduction by the baron who has cast her off. She speaks in the metaphor of a blossoming tree from which a falcon has robbed one flower, And he says, one flower is nothing, to speak of it no more, it will not set him against the tree he loves. In English, the greatest poetry of the seasons is from Gawain and the Green Knight. We trim to summer and the coming on of fall. After, the season of summer with the soft winds, when Zephyrus siffles himself on sedis and herbes, well a ween is the wort that waxes thereout, when the Duncan dew droppes off the leaves, to be the blissful blush of the bright sunne. But then he is tervis and tarnes him son, warnes him for the winter to wax full reaper, he drives with droch the dust for to rise, for the face of the folder to flee full here. Wrath wind of the welkin restless with the sun, the leaves lansen for the lind and lichten on the grunda. Those alliterations heightening every mood, as in the miniature the face of the sower of winter wheat. And all greyes the grass that grain was era, then all reapus and rotus that rose upon first, and thus yearness the year in yesterday's morning, and winter windes again as the world asks no facher. The 1400 castle rising behind, like the one Gawain sees over the December woods, towers set up between, pinnacled full thick, turrets with carved tops and chalk-white chimneys. Gawain must precede the Tres Richeus, but Charles d'Orléans, English captive, here writing in French, more than matches its period harmony. Le temps a laissé son manteau, de vent, de froidure et de pluie, et s'est vêtu de broderie, de soleil luisant, clair et beau, rivières, fontaines et ruisseaux, portent en livrée jolie, gouttes d'argent et d'or favoris. Chacun s'habille de nouveau, le temps a laissé son manteau. With Lang's rendering, the year has changed his mantle cold of wind, of rain, of bitter air, and he goes clad in cloth of gold, of laughing suns and seasons fair. All founts, all rivers seaward rolled, the pleasant summer livery wear, with silver studs on broidered veil. The world puts off its raiment old, the year lays down his mantle cold. We have moved from the Limburg calendar to its Grimani translation, a century later, time of Josquin, in the robes and haze of bourgeois realism. Such a filling in as that of Arthurian romance over the 300 years from Chrétien to Malory. Since the Tres Richeus, here January, like Cicogna's 1400 setting of O Rosa Bella, has still a trace of the old chivalric suspension of space, time, and cause. When Chrétien's Lancelot, seeking Guinevere, has crossed the sword bridge into the land from which no stranger returns, he is viewed from a tower window by King Bademagu, very scrupulous and precise about honor and what was right, and by his son and opposite, the Queen's captor Meliagant, who never wearied of villainy, treason, and felony. In Malory, 1470, there is no good King Bademagu and no symbolic land. With an armed force, Meliagrance surprises the Queen at Maying and takes her to his castle 7 miles from Westminster. Lancelot gets word. Meliagrance's archers shoot his horse. He forces a driver to take him up in what for Chrétien was the mysterious cart. From a bay window the Queen espied by his shield that he was there himself, Sir Launcelot du Lake. And then she was where came his horse ever after that chariot, and ever he trod his guttis and his paunch under his feet. Alas, said the Queen, now I see well and prove that well is him that hath a trusty friend. As in the Grimani dancening, the very knights and queens accept the probabilities of the middle class. If there are turning points in history, the Van Eyck miniatures from the Turin hours by one or both brothers, and surely from the 1420s or before, are the point of departure for all the realism, trees, water, atmosphere, and distance to follow. They succeed the Limburg brothers as this Dunstable, O Rosa Bella, does the Cicogna just heard. Not finer, not better, but polyphonically, sensuously, melodically advanced. As Martin Lefrance wrote, Dufay and Binchois against the early century of Carmen and Césaris have assumed the English style and followed after Dunstable. That mutation of 1425 differentiates the new Europe from everything that had gone before. The 1400 softening of international style had cognates as far as the Byzantine, most tellingly in Russia, though the gentlest art of the West seems physical beside the mystic accord of Rublev's weightless angels, forming at their Abraham supper the flower-frail round of a trinity. In Europe, that horizon of grace becomes, as with Sluter, a Renaissance launching ground, thus the incarnate Christ which crowns his Dijon fountain. In the apt Redemptio hymn, the revolution of immediacy takes the same center. The melody has risen from medieval tenor to descant. The bass settles down, seeking Faubourg chords. Second progressions begin to yield to those of the fourth and fifth. That simple ordering of harmonic space founds the Renaissance lauda. History moves by the precipitation and inbreeding of opposites. Gothic flamboyance spills into the very years of humanist solemnity. Thus the miniatures of Bel Bello, completing the Visconti hours with the terminal dissonances of Ars Nova, De Haspre,